Hi Roy. Okay, so here's your past life spread, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned. And I'll get hints of time throughout usually, but here we're going to put the time card away because we're actually going to Atlantis and Lemuria. And it's interesting because the last person I just read had this, and it's always nice to see people who know each other having similar cards because it usually shows a link of some kind, like a deeper link. So you can see here there's a few similar cards actually between you and Amanda. So it's really kind of cool. So let's just start. And what it feels like here is with Atlantis or Lemuria, it can mean Atlantis or Lemuria, or it can mean like the energies that are usually associated with those places. So for example, Atlantis is more aggressive energy and Lemuria is more passive energy. And I feel like we're actually going into more of a Lemuria energy here. And so it could very well be Lemuria, or it could be a time and place where we no longer have it. It's no longer in existence, but it was, and that's where we're going. And it's a very long time ago, so this also indicates having an old soul. And let's go to what you did with the majority of your time. So here we have the art card. And I feel like we are looking at someone here, and it's a male life, but the male I'm feeling out here has more like feminine qualities in the sense of like more like compassion and more like emotion and more it's just like it's just not like a super like masculine person we're looking at here. And what you can do is what you're supposed to be doing is making connections, right? So I'm going to be relaying to you images and impressions I'm getting, like what I'm doing now, and your job is to make connections where you can from what we're looking at here to your current life. And so for example, a connection could be something like one, if you feel like you are that kind of person where you do have more like passive energy, which isn't a bad thing at all, it's just more gentle, I guess, more gentle energy, more like empathic, more understanding, sympathetic, compassionate, emotional kind of thing. And if you're that way, it would stem from here. In how you can also make a connection is the opposite, because we're seeing someone who is like that here. So you might have chosen to come back into this life and be someone that is more like take charge and masculine and aggressive and rah, like that's how you can make connections. It can be either way, because our soul, once it experiences something, likes to come back and experience something like similar but in a different way. So keep that in mind. Now we're also, again, looking at an artist. So are you an artist in this life? I feel like we're actually looking at someone who is a musician or a composer is what it feels like, because it feels like this is someone who does his own work and also collaborates with others, but really mostly I feel like there's something about taking pride in his own work. And so an artist, that can mean a lot of things, but really in your current life, are you someone that likes, is getting credit for your work very important to you? Do you like to work in groups? Do you like to work alone? Which one do you prefer? So what kind of connections can you make in that way? Do you like music? Are you a musician? Do you feel like it's natural? Is there a natural artistic tendency that you veer towards? What else is going on here? So I feel like you're a musician. I want to say, I'm trying to see like what kind of musician, because I feel like there's vocals involved, but there's also something else and I can't quite place it. But so it's interesting because, in this, you can come back and maybe you like singing a lot, and it could be as simple as karaoke. And it doesn't mean you have to have a great voice. It just means like a natural like inclination or a general like of music or composing, or do you just hear a song, or do you listen to a song and pick it apart, and are you affected by music really? So keep that in mind as well. But it can be another art form, and it can also be it would likely be something that's more about performance or showing your work kind of thing. All right, so the first important day. Here we have the Enlightenment card. So usually that indicates like something is going on as far as learning something or growing in some way. And here we have the Soul Group card. So that's the relationship that's involved. And the Soul Group, those are people or person who travels with you throughout your lifetimes, showing up in various roles, you know? And then this card indicates more like sadness and depression. So I'm trying to see what's going on here. So I feel like what's happening is I feel like you have exceeded. So I feel like, okay, if you're doing music, I feel like you work and collaborate with people, a group. I guess a band. I guess you might say it's a band of some sort. But I feel like we're not looking at like a rock group. I feel like this is something that's more of a composition as far as like symphonic or something like that. So honestly, if you like that kind of music as well, orchestrated music, symphony, or like synthesized music where that sound might appeal to you. But basically we're looking at a group, and I feel like on this day you're realizing that you exceed them talent wise and depth wise, and like it's not like the kind of thing where you're like, I'm better than you. It's just more like, if I'm going to get anywhere with what I want to do with my life, I'm going to have to kind of strike out on my own or find people that are on my level where I can not only succeed but also be challenged to be better. So I feel like in your current life, if you're someone that likes to be challenged, if you're someone that you're not fine just being mediocre, if there's something you love and that you're good at, you're going to want to be the best at it or just keep working at it. Also, you might be someone who feels guilty about leaving people behind, or like, you know, a lot of times we grow up and we go through these transitions in life, and we're always changing, and a lot of those times the changes have to do with people in our lives. Like, are there people that you might consider toxic energy, or people who you feel are bringing you down, or every time you're around them you feel small or you don't feel your full potential of what you're capable of? So there might be guilt in letting people go, but it's the kind of thing where if that's the case, this would be coming up to show you that you need to let them go and let go of the guilt as well, because you're only going to succeed or basically meet your potential and move beyond that if you surround yourself with people who are at the same like vibe as you, like people who want what's good for you, who make you feel good, who make you feel like moving forward and learning, and you know. So I feel like that's why this is coming up, and I feel like there's this this little sadness, like tinge of sadness, because that's where I feel like it's the guilt, where you're realizing, oh shit, I need to think about, like, this is a time where I need to think about my career kind of thing. Even though they're my buddies, this is more serious than just being buddies with them. It's almost like you have it's like you have music in you that you know is very special. It's kind of like your music carries energy that affects people, and so there's a whole depth and level to it that these people they can't grasp. So why they're your soul group though, I feel like your soul groups, people always tend to think of, oh, these people are in my life all the time, so we're friends and we're always going to be friends, and they're here on a positive note. Well, your soul group they're people, they're souls that want to help you elevate your soul, just like you want to help elevate theirs, like on a subconscious soul level. And so they would come in, and some of these people make life harder or put you through, emotional torment or whatever it is, so that you can learn how to handle it and you can grow in that way. Even though it seems negative at the time, it's actually helpful for you. And that's what's happening here, is you're learning to let go. You're learning how to let go of people in one sense. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means that you love you, and you need to, again, meet your potential and go on the path that you're meant to go on. Just like you moving on without them is actually allowing them to learn lessons about themselves, So it's all just a cycle of lessons. And I feel like this is a day where you learn, or a period of time where you had to process and learn to let go in order to move forward. And I feel like that actually took a lot of time, and I feel like that's a lot of like I feel like that's a theme here, like that's important to just take note of letting go of people, even if they're family, even if it's blood. If they bring you down and they make you feel insignificant or not in your best spirit, you have every right to put distance between that and space between the relationship. You can love someone and not like them. You can love people and not want to spend time around them or mix your energy with them, and that's normal. And a lot of people are going through that now. It's about finding your tribe. Maybe you've heard that. So let's go to the next important day. Here we have the move, let's go card. Usually that means people are getting out. And the relationship card is friends. So we're looking at friends. And then we're looking at the pity card. So it's really interesting because what we're doing is we're seeing you moving up and elevating yourself and moving forward with your passion and your life, and you're pursuing what you're meant to pursue, and life is wonderful and good. And these friends that we're seeing here, it feels like a dual note of friends, because I feel like we're seeing a new group of friends coming in. We see new people filtering into your life as you open your arms for that kind of support, because you're basically getting rid of old energy and welcoming new energy in this transition of friends. And so we're seeing new friends coming in who you know and you could feel are right for you. Just like today in your current life, you can feel who's good and who's right for you. A lot of us are in denial, especially when it comes to like romantic relationships or like family, because to kind of acknowledge that somebody isn't vibing with you anymore after so long, it's scary because you're comfortable with them, but it's like you're gonna have to like kind of move on, like get past the scariness, basically take the risk, and you're going to see on the other side of that are people who really do vibe with you, who make you feel good. So I feel like we're looking at this transition so that in your current life, that's what might be coming up, is you're seeing a lot of like people transitioning in and out, like getting rid of the old energy, bringing in the new. And the pity card is coming in because you're seeing that the old friends aren't really handling it well, in the sense where they're blaming you, basically. So for the more you succeed, the more they blame you for their kind of like shoddy life, and it's not your fault. And they're trying to kind of guilt trip you, but rather you've moved on past this, so that if anything, you're feeling more sympathetic. Pity is a strong word. It's more like you have sympathetic feelings for your friends, for your old friends, but you realize that they're just pissy. Like they're lashing out. So they don't know how to keep a friendship they don't know how to work with staying or remaining friends with you when the rules are different, so to speak, because you have reestablished your friendship rules with them, and they don't know how to deal with it. And so their way of dealing with it is banding together on their own and kind of shutting you out, which is, a bit of a painful thing when you feel shut out from like a childhood clique. But that's actually also a blessing in disguise, because when they shut you out, that's kind of like a nice little like, okay, well, I guess it's time to move on then. You're not going to harp on it because you're so like focused on what is happening with your career and your life, and that's for them to deal with. So it's kind of like, I feel like this is coming up too for you as far as where you place your focus. Because if you're going to place your focus on things that make you feel bad, that's going to hold you back. But if you place your focus on the things that bring you joy, that excite you, that you're passionate about, that's going to only propel you forward, and very swiftly too, because it's kind of a thing, like where you focus, that's where things come in. So if you focus on following your joy, following your excitement, that's going to open up so many doors for you, and that's going to really allow you to walk through the doors and leave even more behind you that doesn't serve you, because this, your life is all about going towards healthier choices and things that serve you and things that are positive, but really just helping you grow in a good way. So I feel like that's what would come up, and almost like if you are leaving people behind, so to speak, just realize you're not leaving them. It's just, this is what's supposed to happen. There's phases that people go through, and if anything, no guilt. But, you know, definitely hold space for compassion for those people who don't understand you or don't understand the choices that you make. You can hold space for them and hold compassion for them. It doesn't mean you have to spend time with them. So then we're coming to the death card, and here is a water card. So I'm trying to see what's going on with that. Quite frankly, I've never had this one before, but what it feels like is it feels like in a kind of a weird freak accident where it has to do with being zapped with like electricity. Like it's almost like like you were electrocuted by accident. And it's funny because I don't know what kind of technology they had at this time, but it feels like it has to do with what you do. I feel like it feels like it has to do with what you do, like for a living. It was almost like, again, like a freak accident where there's a bit of like so it's almost like if there were amps back then where you hooked in your guitar and you got like an electric shock through that, even though I don't know what instruments they had during this time, but I feel like it's like that kind of thing. Like a shock of energy or something goes through you, and I feel like it like just like it's weird. But like, so how this, it's weird because I've never had that before, but how that might transfer over to you today is, one, if you find that you're dehydrated a lot, if you find that you run warm, like your temperature, if you run warm, on the opposite of that, you can run very cold. So if you like run extremely warm or extremely cold, it would stem from here, as well as dehydration and also stiffness of the joints. I feel like if there's stiffness or pain in your joints at all, I feel like that would come from the shock and carry over. And if not, if you don't experience any of that, awesome, that's great. But if you do, that's where it stems from. So the lesson card here is work hard. And why this is applying here, the work hard card, is because usually like we see this and we think like manual labor, because there's a little dude here doing labor, you know, he's like working. But here it's not so much manual labor. You worked your mind. You worked your mind and emotional state and spirituality in a way very hard here, because we're seeing you do a lot of difficult, emotionally difficult things in order to move forward, which are, it's so great because you're learning all these lessons. So we see you, it's very hard work, first of all, what you do. Even though the composing and the music and the art comes very naturally, you put a lot of time into it, a lot of energy. It's very consuming for you. It's almost like the idea of a family here. I don't really get the feel of having kids or a family or anything, which in your current life, if you feel like you don't want kids, that would stem from here, because here the feeling of kids is the feeling of being held back. On the opposite, the flip side, if you came into this life and you actually want a big family and want to experience what it's like to have a lot of kids, that would make sense too, because you didn't get to experience here, you see, so you can make connections when it comes to that here. Also, we're seeing someone working very hard with his mental processing and moving forward. A lot of people cannot get away from their childhood drama or their childhood people. A lot of people can't do that. And to do that, in order for you to realize you need to let go of that. And that's like letting go of the past too. That's a big deal. So that actually might connect with you too. You might be someone currently who's trying to let go of things from your past, and you'll see that you're able to do that. If that's what's going on, you're more than capable of doing that, because we see it happen here. You've already done it, you can do it again, and it's the healthiest choice for you to let people from your past go. And you could feel when it's right, you know? So we're seeing you working very hard with your mental processing in order to move past and let go of things, but doing that is also a spiritual process as well. People don't realize it's when you learn to reprogram your thought patterns in order to kind of live a better life. That's all spiritual work. Also, we're seeing someone also working hard in his career period to move forward, to just get your piece out into the world and meeting people, and it's all a lot of busy work. It's a non-stop life. We're looking at a musician, like it's non-stop. So, and again, I feel like all this work, you know, it was all work, even though you loved it. Again, we don't see a family. We don't see anything outside of the work, because your work kind of was fun as well. So it took care of all your socialness and it took care of your creativity. Everything was taken care of in doing what you did for work. So in your current life, if you're unhappy in a career that you're in, it would be because you feel like you want to do something where it's not work, it's fun. And that would make sense. So pay attention to what excites you if that's the case, if that's what you're looking for. Or if you're happy with what you're doing, it's because you probably feel like there's a lot of well-rounded aspects to your job, if that makes sense. And it could be as something like being in an office and working in a marketing department where there is creativity, and then there's also people there, so there's social too. So it's like, if you look at it, you can really see how you really might be getting a similar thing out of it. On the other hand, you can come back and want something totally different, and your soul might want to experience being in a ho-hum kind of job where you have to experience just a little bit of misery in order to learn that this isn't for me and I want to get out of this and get back to having fun with what I do for a living. So there's a lot to that, and I just want you to keep making connections where you can, all right? And anyway, there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were able to make connections, and thanks for letting me read you.